Let's finish this. Move your ass and don't be late.
Copy. Brace your feet, it's hauling ass.
Gypsy to command.
The whole idea of giant robots throwing down with giant monsters is just pure blockbuster gold. Watching massive machines and towering beasts wreck cities, hurl cars, and crush skyscrapers is the kind of wild, over-the-top action that totally hits that childhood daydream spot. So it's kinda wild that Hollywood only gave us 2 of these movies. Seriously, we should be on our 5th by now. That being said, the Pacific Rim universe is actually a lot bigger than most people think. Besides the 2 movies, there's also a Netflix animated series, Pacific Rim: The Black, plus a bunch of comics, novels, and video games that dig deeper into the whole kaiju versus giant robot world. And now, there's even more on the way. In August 2024, Legendary announced they're working on a live-action prequel series that'll explore how everything started before the events of the first film. Eric Heiserer is leading the charge as the creator, showrunner, writer, and executive producer, with Lionsgate Television and Chronology Entertainment teaming up on the project. Still, no matter how many spin-offs we get, it's the main movies that really drive the franchise and move the story forward. Now we finally have more details on the story of the 3rd movie. Set in 2013, the movie kicks off when massive creatures called Kaiju start popping out of the ocean after a portal to another dimension, called The Breach, opens deep in the Pacific. As these monsters begin attacking cities, humanity bands together to fight back. To stand a chance, they create giant robots called Jaegers, packed with high-tech weapons and piloted by 2 people connected through a neural link. These pilots work under the Pan-Pacific Defense Corps, the global military force trying to stop the chaos. Leading the charge is Marshal Stacker Pentecost, a former Jaeger pilot himself who helps keep humanity from being totally wiped out. We jump to 2020, a few years after the first kaiju attacks. Brothers Yancey and Raleigh Becket are piloting a Jaeger together to protect Anchorage, Alaska from a brutal kaiju called Knifehead. Things go south fast. Yancey gets killed during the fight, and Raleigh barely makes it through, finishing the battle solo. The loss hits him hard, and he ends up leaving the Jaeger program. Fast forward to 2025, and things are looking pretty bleak for humanity. With the kaiju threat getting worse, Earth is running out of options. As a last-ditch effort, Pentecost brings Raleigh back into the fight and pairs him with a rookie pilot, Mako Mori. They're tasked with piloting an older Jaeger model, and even though they come from totally different backgrounds, they've got to figure out how to work together. Their mission? Shut down the breach once and for all and save the planet from total destruction. In Pacific Rim Uprising, the story picks up in 2035, a decade after the original Jaeger pilots shut down the breach and stopped the kaiju invasion. Jake Pentecost, the son of the legendary Marshal Stacker Pentecost, has totally ditched his old life. Instead of following in his dad's footsteps, he's now living off the grid, scavenging and selling old Jaeger parts on the black market. Once a top pilot in training, Jake bailed on the program and ended up deep in the criminal world. But when a new, even more dangerous threat emerges and starts tearing through cities, Jake is forced back into action. As the world teeters on the edge of destruction again, he reconnects with his adoptive sister Mako Mori and tries to patch things up. With humanity's survival on the line, Jake has to step up, take command, and prove he's got what it takes to carry on his father's legacy. Pacific Rim Uprising wrapped up with a pretty exciting cliffhanger. Humans were finally going to bring the fight straight to the precursors in their own dimension. If a 3rd movie had actually happened, director Stephen S. DeKnight, yep, the guy behind Spartacus and Daredevil, had some big ideas in store. He was planning to dive into multiverse territory way before that became the trendy thing to do in Hollywood. My plan was you actually find out that these kaiju are not willing monsters, they're being controlled and abused by the precursors, DeKnight revealed to Sci-Fi. He continued, and basically the humans set a bunch of them free. That 3rd act was going to be Jaegers and kaiju fighting together. Leading to the end of the movie, my plan was basically the multiverse of that particular franchise, where the humans can now travel through all these different dimensions. He continues, there was going to be I'm trying to parse my words because I never know if they're actually going to make another one. A big reunion at the end that kind of brought the story all together. That ending would have also tied into the MonsterVerse with Legendary, so you could have crossovers with the Pacific Rim franchise and the Kong and Godzilla franchises. Guillermo del Toro has also shared his thoughts on Pacific Rim 3, and he didn't hold back. In a post on X, he said he'd love to see Jaegers take on the monsters from the Legendary universe, basically hinting at a crossover with something like Godzilla or Kong. Sounds like he's totally down for that kind of epic showdown. He said, "I personally love seeing the neon, sea battles, building demolition, etc. because secretly, maybe, the Pac Rim universe coexists in the legendary Kaiju verse, and perhaps one day they can rumble." Guillermo del Toro made it pretty clear. While he'd love to see his Jaegers take on the monsters from the legendary universe, he won't be the one making that crossover happen. He's basically stepped away from the Pacific Rim franchise at this point. That said, Charlie Hunnam, who played Raleigh Becket in the first movie, has mentioned he'd be down for Pacific Rim 3, but only if del Toro was involved. In an interview with Inverse, when asked if he'd return for a third movie, he said, "I would do anything that Guillermo was doing. If Guillermo invites me to do Pacific Rim 3, I'll be there, or anything else he wants me to do." Hunnam's comments suggest he's not really holding out hope for another Pacific Rim film. It's more about wanting to work with del Toro again than actually being focused on a sequel. The movie seems like an afterthought to him, something he'd jump into just for the chance to team up with the director again. Still, if Pacific Rim 3 ever does pick up momentum, it could be the perfect excuse for these two to reunite. They've worked together before on Pacific Rim and Crimson Peak, and clearly have a solid creative bond. And while a new movie isn't officially in the works, the franchise is making a comeback in comic form thanks to a successful Kickstarter project. Besides the movies and TV shows, Pacific Rim also has a bunch of graphic novels, 5 of them so far. Titles like Tales from Year Zero, Tales from the Drift, Blackout, Aftermath, and Amara explore different points in the timeline. Some dive into the backstory leading up to the movies, while others show what's going down in other parts of the world during the events of Pacific Rim and Uprising. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, because we'll be covering more updates on this soon and other exciting upcoming movies and series. Thank you so much for watching our video today, and we will see you in our next video.